Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Light It Up, a video podcast that discusses topics and situations that we've all experienced, but from a biblical perspective. My name is Camilla Spradley, and as always, I'm so excited to be with y'all today. This is episode 8, and it's entitled Running Out of Time, and we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right on into it, all right? So then, in July, I recently turned 30, and some people say that 30 is the age where things in your body just start to slowly break down, things that you never noticed before. You wake up with some aches and pains. You don't feel like yourself. And I didn't really understand what everybody was talking about until maybe 4 or 5 days ago, where my left ankle started hurting. Now, I had previously I had a bad sprain in this ankle a while ago, but it just started giving me pain for days on end. And I always heard people say, you know, when parts of your body start aching and hurting, it's because bad weather is coming. That was the case. Y'all, we literally just had a hurricane run through here, and that was why my ankle was hurting. And when I made that connection, I was like, oh, so this is it. This is the end. My body's starting to break down. And before I could really accept that in my soul and my spirit, God was like, get it together, girl. So we're going to be talking about running out of time, or feeling like you're running out of time. That was my little story time, and it's connected in some way, I promise y'all. So in our culture, in our society, there are certain things that we feel like we have to reach by a certain age, right? Like you think you have to graduate from college at a certain time, get that degree, and then you might have to go on and get a master's by a certain age. And that's just academic and career goals. After that, you have marriage. People starting to think that, okay, by the time you get to this age, you should be, you know, engaged, if not walking down somebody's aisle to your husband or your wife. Or, once you get married, then there's another age where people start expecting you to have kids, that first child, okay? And then after that, there's a certain time in our, our life where people start thinking, okay, when's the next kid coming around? There are all these deadlines and timelines in our culture that we feel like we have to reach. And if we don't reach them, we almost feel like a failure, or like we're disappointing not only ourselves, but our family members and our friends, right? We're about to get into the holidays where we have, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and people are going to be looking for y'all to have dates, or looking for husbands and wives. And it's a lot of pressure, and it can be a lot of pressure if we try to abide by society's expectations of when we should be married, when we should have graduated, when we should have done some monumental thing, some milestone. But what we need to understand is that's man-made. And our culture has changed so much. Even in the U.S., when we look at the rates and the ages for when people are to be married, they have changed over time. And we need to understand that that is man-made. We have created our own timeline and our own deadlines for things, but we serve a God that transcends time. And we serve a God that has already walked out our steps, and he has a plan for us. But when we put our faith in more of societal expectations, then we take away some of God's power to work in our lives. And that's what I really want to talk about. That's part of it. The next part is when you feel like you have reached a point in life where things are starting to break down with you, whether it be your body or whether it be your mind or your independence, and you really feel like, my God, I'm running out of time. The purpose of this episode is to, just encourage us to take the focus off of what you think your life is going to be and what society says it has to be, and shift our focus to what God has for us. All right, so let's get into something from the book of Genesis. We're dealing with Abraham and Sarah, and it's a familiar part in Abraham's life where he hears from God that God is going to bless him with a son. He is married to Sarah, but Sarah has not produced the son yet, but God has given him the promise. Okay, it may not have happened in his timeline and in Sarah's timeline, but God still has a promise for him because God is an intentional God. And he talks to Abraham and he tells him what this promise is. Okay, In the very next chapter, he is discussing things with Sarah, and Sarah feels like, maybe God intended for this son to go through someone else's womb. And she allows her servant Hagar to be with her husband Abraham, and they produce Ishmael. But that was not the way God wanted that promise to go down, because the promise still came through Isaac. But the problem was they did not trust in God's timing, and they chose to establish their own timeline. And we do that all the time. We rush through things. We make bad decisions, and we end up getting an Ishmael, when if we would have just been patient, we would have received our Isaac. And it wouldn't have led to any unnecessary complications. And that is what we do so often. We skip things and we go through unnecessary complications simply because we cannot wait on God's timing. So if you are in a position where there is something that is expected of you by a certain time, and you feel like you're running out of time because you're not accomplishing things as quickly as you want to, or as quickly as others would think you need to, please trust in God and trust that his timing is perfect. There are so many places in God's word where he tells us that his time is perfect, where he tells us his plans supersede anything that we can have for our lives. In Jeremiah 29, even when God's people were in very trying times, God reminds them that he has a plan for you. And it's a plan to prosper you, a plan not to devastate you or leave you without hope. It's a plan that will lead you to an expected end. And of course, they might not have wanted to hear that because they were going through some things just as we are. But God has a plan for you. There's also something in, Psalm 139, which I love that psalm. It's one of my most favorite songs. But it talks about before we were even knitted in our parents' womb, our days were already walked out. God already knew how he wanted our life to go. He already knew that he needed us to graduate a semester late. He already knew that he needed us not to have that relationship in high school work out. He already knew that he needed us to not get married by when everybody else is getting married by, because we have been created in a certain place in time. Okay, there are certain things that are in your future, that's in God's plan for you, that don't work if you are to function in how society wants you to function in terms of accomplishing things. We have to trust and believe that no matter how we think that we are, how late we think we are, we're not. God has already walked out our plans. He's already laid out our path, and we have to trust in his timing. All right. And also, when we feel like we've reached a point where our body is starting to break down, where we're starting to gain more weight, where we're starting to feel them workouts, where we're starting to not look the same as we did when we were in our 20-somethings, all right? We are going to choose to not allow and give ourselves over to the breaking down process that everybody is talking about. Once you reach a certain age, that's it. It's all downhill. No, because God is the creator of time, and God will restore what we've lost, and God will give us the strength and the energy to carry out our purpose. It's important that we hold on to that and not pay attention to even sometimes how our bodies feel. Because I know if anybody's listening to this that's like over even 25 or 30, your body's not exactly working the same. Okay, I'm starting to feel it now, and especially after 2 children. But please understand, baby, that we have this covered. God cares for our bodies just like he cares for our minds and our spirits. And what we give over to him, he will keep and bless. All right, all we got to do is give that over to him and do the work. And that's what I want us to do. Okay, so then that leads us to our light work. All right. So if you are one of those people where you feel like, man, like I'm not accomplishing what I need to accomplish, and that could even be not necessarily career goals. It could be something personal where you feel like I should have broken this generational curse by now. I should have been over this hump by now. I should have grown in this area by now. Please trust God's timing and know that he makes everything beautiful in his time. Don't be discouraged. Give your all to him, and he is a God of restoration. He is a God of progress, of blessings, and we are more than conquerors. So please don't feel bound by a box of dates, that time that people have put you in, okay? There is no timeline when it comes to God, because his plans supersede anything that man makes, all right? So there are two things that we're going to do for our light work this week. The first one is just meditate. Meditate on scriptures that tell you that God has a plan for you. Because one thing about God, which there's so much about him, but he is intentional, okay? Everything that he does, he has a purpose for. He's not a God of confusion. He's not a God that's just going to let you wander through life doing whatever and there's no plan, okay? If you give your life over to him, then he already has a plan for you. And that's the great thing about it, all right? So meditate on scriptures that show you just what a strategic God that he is, so you can have confidence that even though you are not meeting deadlines that people want you to meet, that society expects you to meet, trust that it's coming, okay? And it's going to be better than you could even imagine. You'll have life and more abundantly, even if you're not finishing things the way society says you have to, or when society says you have to, all right? So focus on scriptures that let you know God has a plan. That's the first part of our light work. Okay. The second part of our light work is to work your faith. Once you meditate on those scriptures and you have faith in those scriptures, then you need to work it out. Okay. For example, if you have faith that God is going to preserve your body and keep your body, and you're not going to be broken down and feeble by the time you're like 31. Okay. Once you have faith in that, then work your plan. Okay. Change your diet, drink some more water, work out, take care of your temple. Trust and believe that God is going to protect your body and preserve your body, but also work your faith. Same goes for if you have faith that God is going to lead you to your graduation date when it's supposed to be, or that God is going to lead you in a certain relationship or lead you to a certain career when it's supposed to happen in time. That means that you work your faith as well. You keep up your grades in college. You keep your temple holy. You do what it takes to have those qualities of a successful person in marriage. You work on yourself while you're still in your single life, right? You be patient in your season that you're in and let nothing go to waste. Make sure you're working diligently so when God actually does release you into that next season, that you are ready and you're not out here looking crazy, okay? Because again, I can't say this enough. God's plan is so perfect for you, and it exceeds whatever you think that you have to be. So just don't lose the faith. That's all I can really say. I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but I promise you, you are not running behind. You're not running out of time. God is the creator of time, okay? You're not running out of anything. That's it. God's will for you is perfect. His timeline for you is perfect. So trust it. All right. And that's it for this episode. I hope I encouraged you, and hopefully you're going to be like me. If your body is the issue, you're going to take care of your body. You're going to have faith. You're going to work it out. You're going to meditate on those scriptures, and you're going to work your faith. All right. Till next time. Love y'all.